massive Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic displays flickered with urgent warnings. 700 species representatives shifted nervously in their seats, arranged in concentric rings around the central podium where High Arbiter Valak stood, his forearms raised for silence. "The human vessel approaches," Valak announced, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of distress. "Despite our quarantine order, despite our warnings, despite the blockade of 17 battle fleets," the chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives of the consortium worlds cowered, while the militaristic Drakari delegation pounded their armored fists on their consoles. "Impossible," shouted Ambassador Trell of the Saurian Coalition. "We established a Class 9 interdictor field around their entire solar system. Nothing should be able to breach it." Valak's aide, a spindly Medusan named Nyx, approached with a data crystal. "High Arbiter, telemetry confirms the vessel has somehow passed through the field without triggering alarms. Their propulsion signature doesn't match any known technology in our databases." The massive view screen dominating the front wall of the chamber activated, showing a sleek vessel with unusual geometry, not the brutal, utilitarian designs the Council expected from such a primitive species. The ship's hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, creating an unsettling void against the star-speckled background. "This cannot be," bellowed General Kral of the Drakari. "Humans are a quarantine species. They were judged too dangerous after the Proxima incident. They shouldn't possess technology beyond chemical rockets." Valak raised his secondary limbs for silence. "The quarantine has failed. The monitoring stations reported no unusual activity, yet here they are, at the very heart of galactic civilization, having bypassed our most sophisticated defenses." The archivist, oldest member of the Council, floated forward on his gravity pad. "There is something you should know about humans," the ancient being wheezed. "When we placed the quarantine 50 cycles ago, we believed isolation would contain them. I warned against this approach. Adversity does not weaken humans, it strengthens them." On the screen, the human vessel continued its inexorable approach toward Nexus Station, home of the Galactic Council. No weapons were visible on its hull, but the ship radiated an aura of unmistakable power. "Open communications," Valak ordered, his voice betraying a tremor. The view screen shifted to show the bridge of the human vessel. Standing calmly at its center was a woman with dark skin and silver-streaked hair, wearing a simple blue uniform without insignia or decoration. "This is Admiral Eleanor Reeves of the Earth diplomatic vessel Prometheus," she said, her voice measured and confident. "We've come to discuss the terms of your surrender." The chamber erupted in chaos as Valak staggered back. "Surrender? You are one ship. We are the Galactic Council. We command the combined might of 700 worlds." Admiral Reeves smiled thinly. "You misunderstand. We're not here to fight you. We're here to save you. The Void Heralds are coming and you have no defense against them. Only humanity stands between this galaxy and extinction." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Now, shall we discuss terms? Or would you prefer we leave you to your fate?" Behind her, the bridge crew, all human, all watching with the same unsettling confidence, continued their work as if the outcome was already decided. "This is an outrage," General Kral roared, his scales flushing crimson. "The humans dare threaten us? I demand immediate military action." The archivist raised a withered hand. "What are these Void Heralds you speak of, human?" Admiral Reeves nodded to someone off-screen. The view screen split, showing nightmarish entities of darkness and twisted geometry that seemed to bend reality around them. "An ancient species that moves between galaxies, consuming all sentient life before moving on," she explained. "They've done this countless times before. Their advanced fleet will reach Council space within 3 standard months." Ambassador Trell hissed in disbelief. "Convenient timing. You breach our quarantine with impossible technology and immediately claim to be our saviors from some unknown threat." "Unknown to you," Reeves corrected. "While you believed us trapped on Earth, we discovered the ruins of a civilization that predates the founding of your council. They left warnings about the Herald's harvest cycles." Valak studied the human admiral carefully. "Even if what you say is true, what makes you believe humans alone can oppose this threat? Your species is young, barely spacefaring by our records." "Your records are outdated," Reeves replied. "The isolation you forced upon us accelerated our development. Without the constraining influence of your galactic regulations, We pursued technologies your scientists deemed too dangerous or impossible, she gestured, and the view screen changed to show a vast armada of ships hidden in the shadow of Jupiter. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of vessels. Far more than should have been possible for a species supposedly confined to their home planet. This is but one of our fleets, Reeves continued. We've prepared for war with you for 50 years only to discover a far greater threat. Now we offer you a choice we ourselves never received. Join us willingly in this fight or be compelled to survive. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Valix exchanged glances with the archivist, whose ancient eyes had widened in something between fear and admiration. You will permit our scientists to verify your claims about these void heralds, Valak said finally, and explain how a single human vessel breached our quarantine field. Admiral Reeves nodded. Agreed. I request permission to dock and present our evidence in person. Granted, Valak replied, ignoring the protests from the Drakari delegation. But be warned, human. If this is deception, it's not, Reeves interrupted. In 3 days, the Herald Scouts will attack the Cygnus monitoring station as their first incursion. You can verify this yourself. By then, you'll understand that cooperation is the only option. As the transmission ended, the council erupted into frantic debate. The archivist drifted closer to Valak. I have lived for 7 centuries, the ancient being whispered. I have seen species rise and fall, empires crumble to dust, but I have never encountered anything quite like humans. Valak watched the approaching vessel on the display. Are they truly our salvation or something far worse? Perhaps both, the archivist replied. But one thing is certain, the galaxy will never be the same again. The council chamber had transformed from an arena of panic to a tense negotiation room. Admiral Reeves now stood physically before the assembled representatives, having somehow transported down despite the station's impenetrable shields. Behind her stood 2 human officers, a tall man with augmented eyes and a woman whose fingers constantly danced over a portable holographic interface. 50 years ago, you judged humanity too dangerous to join your galactic community, Reeves said, pacing slowly around the central dais. You placed a quarantine field around our system and believed that would be the end of it. Valak, still visibly shaken, leaned forward. The Proxima incident was a misunderstanding, Reeves interrupted. But that's ancient history now. While you watched us through your outdated monitoring stations, believing we remained confined to chemical rockets and primitive fission power, we were preparing, she nodded to the woman beside her who activated her device. The chamber's main display changed to show the human fleet again, but now with detailed specifications of their vessels. The technology displayed was centuries beyond what the council believed humans possessed. Impossible, whispered Nix, the High Arbiter's aide. Our observers only saw what we wanted them to see, said the tall man with augmented eyes. Director Thomas Blackwood, Earth Intelligence. Your monitoring systems were compromised the day after you installed them. The council representatives murmured in disbelief and growing fear. Admiral Reeves continued, 6 months ago we detected quantum anomalies at the edge of the galaxy, the first signs of the Void Heralds, an ancient species that moves between galaxies, consuming all sentient life before moving on. The archivist floated forward. These Void Heralds. Our records contain no mention of such beings. Blackwood nodded. They wouldn't. They leave no survivors, no records. We only know of them because we discovered something you missed. The ruins of a civilization buried beneath the ice of Europa, a civilization that left warnings and data about the Herald's previous harvest cycles. General Krall slammed his fist down. And we're to believe humans alone can stop this threat? Preposterous, Admiral Reeves smiled grimly. No, not alone. With your industrial capacity, your resource networks, and our technology, we might stand a chance. That's why we're here. Not to conquer, but to conscript. You speak of this human fleet, Valak said cautiously. Yet we see only one vessel. The Prometheus is merely our diplomatic ship, Reeves replied. If you'd prefer a demonstration, she nodded to the woman officer who touched her holographic interface. Immediately, the space around Nexus Station rippled as hundreds of human vessels decloaked, surrounding the station completely. The chamber erupted into panic once more. Even General Krall fell silent, his reptilian eyes widening at the display of overwhelming force. You could have attacked at any time, the archivist observed quietly. Why reveal yourselves now? Because the Void Heralds are a threat to all life, not just yours, Reeves answered. We need your cooperation to defend this galaxy. Our technology, your resources. Without both, we all fall. Ambassador Trell rose, her translucent membranes fluttering nervously. And if we refuse? Then we will protect what we can, Blackwood replied coldly. Including Earth and any worlds that choose to ally with us. The rest will be abandoned to the Heralds. Valix's skin darkened with emotion. This is coercion. This is survival, Reeves corrected. We offer protection and partnership. In return, we require compliance with our defense preparations. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The main view screen activated automatically, showing a distant sector near the galaxy's edge. Strange, writhing darkness appeared from nowhere, engulfing a council monitoring station. The Cygnus outpost, Nix gasped. But you said the attack wouldn't come for 3 days. Admiral Reeves frowned, exchanging glances with her officers. They're moving faster than predicted. Director, signal the fleet. Blackwood touched his wrist device. The view screen split to show a squadron of human vessels moving to intercept the darkness at the Cygnus outpost. You're going to fight them? Valox asked, surprised. Of course, Reeves replied. We said we came to protect the galaxy. Did you think that was merely a negotiating tactic? The council watched in stunned silence as the human vessels engaged the Herald Scouts. The battle was unlike anything they had witnessed before. The darkness seemed to bend reality itself, but the human ships countered with weapons that tore holes in space. Those technologies, the archivist whispered, they violate fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. Your understanding is incomplete, the female officer replied. Commander Diana Lee, Quantum Division. The Heralds exist partially in another dimensional layer. Conventional weapons are useless against them. On the screen, one human vessel was clearly failing, its revolutionary defenses finally overwhelmed. As it began to break apart, it suddenly accelerated directly into the largest concentration of darkness, detonating in a blast that briefly created what appeared to be a miniature star. When the light faded, both the ship and the Herald Scouts were gone. 300 crew members, Reeves said softly. Who knew they wouldn't return? That's humanity, council members. We don't ask others to make sacrifices we wouldn't make ourselves. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had been telling the truth, and the real war was just beginning. General Krall approached Admiral Reeves, studying her with new respect. If we agree to your terms, what happens next? We integrate our fleets. We share technology, selectively. We prepare for full-scale war, she replied. The main Herald force will arrive within months. We need to be ready, and after? Velox asked. If we survive, what then? Will humanity withdraw its forces? Reeves exchanged glances with Blackwood. That depends on the Council. The quarantine can never be reinstated. We've proven its futility. Either we forge a new relationship based on mutual respect, or this temporary alliance becomes permanent subjugation. Valox finished. I prefer to call it protection, Reeves corrected with a thin smile. The galaxy is more dangerous than you realized. You need us now. The archivist drifted between them. I vote to accept the human terms. We face extinction otherwise. One by one, the council representatives signaled their agreement, some eagerly, others with obvious reluctance. Only the Drakari delegation hesitated. General Krall, Valox prompted. Your people's decision? Krall studied Admiral Reeves for a long moment. The Drakari respect strength and honor courage. The humans have demonstrated both today. He thumped his chest in a warrior salute. We will fight alongside humans against these Void Heralds. Then it's settled, Reeves said, nodding to Commander Lee, who began transmitting data to the Council systems. These are the specifications for the defensive network we'll need to establish. We begin immediately. As the Council disbanded to implement the human directives, Blackwood approached Reeves. They agreed more easily than we expected, he murmured. Fear is a powerful motivator, she replied quietly. But this is only the beginning. The real test comes when they discover what we're not telling them. About the true nature of the Heralds? About the true nature of humanity, Reeves corrected, watching the Council members hurry away. And what we've become during our 50 years of isolation? The alliance was uneasy at best. 2 weeks after the humans' dramatic arrival, the Galactic Council remained divided. Many species had joined the human-led defense initiative, but others, led by the militant Drakari and the secretive Vex Conclave, suspected human deception. On the converted council station, now serving as Alliance headquarters, Admiral Reeves faced growing resistance. "These schematics make no sense," complained Chief Engineer Lorax of the Teldari Union, gesturing at the quantum shield designs the humans had provided. "These principles violate fundamental laws of physics as we understand them." Commander Lee, the human quantum physicist overseeing the technology transfer, sighed. "Your understanding is incomplete. The Void Heralds exist partially in another dimensional layer. Conventional shields are useless against them." Lorax's eye stalks quivered in frustration. "But these power requirements, no known energy source could—" "Which is why we've provided the designs for the fusion quantum hybrid reactors," Lee interrupted, pointing to another section of the holographic display. "Focus on building those first." Across the station, in what had once been the High Arbiter's private chambers, Director Blackwood faced a more dangerous confrontation. "We've intercepted transmissions," General Krall growled, his massive form blocking the doorway. Behind him stood 4 other Drakari warriors and representatives from the skeptical factions. "Your fleet movements don't match your claimed defensive preparations." Blackwood remained seated, seemingly unconcerned by the 7-foot reptilian warriors surrounding him. "Some operations require discretion, General. Or perhaps," hissed Delegate Sith of the Vex Conclave, "there are no Void Heralds at all. Perhaps this is merely an elaborate human scheme to subjugate the galaxy without firing a shot." The tension in the room was broken by an alarm that pulsed through the station. The main communication screen activated automatically, showing a human captain with blood streaming down her face. "This is Captain Rivera of the Deep Space Monitoring Vessel Hawking. We've engaged Void Herald scouts at the Cygnus perimeter. They've—" The transmission dissolved into static before returning. "Unknown weapon type. Shields failing. We need immediate—" The screen showed a writhing darkness engulfing the bridge before cutting out completely. Blackwood was already moving, brushing past the stunned delegation. "It seems the Heralds have arrived ahead of schedule, General. Your suspicions will have to wait." Within hours, the station transformed into a war room. The main chamber displayed tactical feeds from the Cygnus sector, where 3 human vessels were engaged with what appeared to be living darkness. "Those ships will be lost," Valak said quietly as he watched alongside Admiral Reeves. "No," she replied, her voice firm. "Watch." On the display, the human vessels executed maneuvers that should have been impossible, their hulls glowing with strange energies. When the darkness engulfed one ship instead of being destroyed, the vessel seemed to phase partially out of reality before reappearing and counterattacking with weapons that tore holes in space itself. "That's impossible," whispered Nix. "No known technology can—" "Exactly," Reeves said. "No known technology. We've been preparing for this fight for decades, developing weapons and defenses that operate on principles your science hasn't yet discovered." General Krall pushed forward, watching the battle with new respect. "Why did you not share these advancements sooner? Would you have believed us?" Blackwood asked, entering the chamber. "Or would you have seen it as further proof of deception?" On the screen, one human vessel was clearly failing, its revolutionary defenses finally overwhelmed. As it began to break apart, it suddenly accelerated directly into the largest concentration of darkness, detonating in a blast that briefly created what appeared to be a miniature star. When the light faded, both the ship and a significant portion of the Void Heralds were gone. "One ship," Reeves said softly. 300 crew members who knew they wouldn't return. "That's humanity, General. We don't ask others to make sacrifices we wouldn't make ourselves." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had been telling the truth, and the real war was just beginning. As the tactical displays continued to show the aftermath of the battle, Commander Lee approached Admiral Reeves with a datapad. After reviewing it, Reeves's expression darkened. "The Herald Scout Force was larger than anticipated," she announced to the assembled War Council. "And they've adapted to our quantum phase weapons more quickly than we predicted. What does that mean?" asked Valax. "It means we need to accelerate our timetable," Blackwood replied. "The main Herald fleet will arrive in weeks, not months." "Impossible," exclaimed Chief Engineer Lorax. "We cannot possibly complete the defensive network in that time frame." Admiral Reeves exchanged glances with Commander Lee. There is another option, but we had hoped to avoid it until absolutely necessary. She activated the central holographic display, showing a strange device shaped like a double helix but composed of materials that seem to absorb light. This is Project Ascension, Reeves explained, the most advanced technology humans have developed during our isolation. What does it do? Asked the archivist, leaning forward with interest. Commander Lee stepped forward. It allows for direct neural interface between organic minds and our quantum technology. The quantum drives that power our ships operate partially outside normal spacetime. A biological mind, properly augmented, can guide these systems with intuition rather than computation. You speak of pilots? Asked Valok's, confusion evident in his voice. Not pilots, Lee corrected. Symbiosis. The augmented individuals become one with their vessels, achieving capabilities no conventional ship can match. The council chamber erupted in shocked discussion. This is abomination, declared the representative from the Chintal Orthodoxy, a species known for their biological purity laws. Lee continued undeterred. The process was developed for humans, but our preliminary analysis suggests that at least 30 galactic species possess compatible neurophysiology. You would share this technology? General Krell asked, his voice betraying surprise. Necessity dictates it, Reeves answered. Volunteers would undergo an irreversible process, becoming living weapons against the Heralds, the most powerful vessels in our fleet. And the cost to these volunteers? Asked the archivist quietly. Lee hesitated. The neural load is substantial. Most subjects experience significant personality alteration. Some lose aspects of their identity. The process is permanent. They can never return to their former lives. Yet humans have already undergone this process? Valok asked. In answer, Lee's eyes suddenly flared with internal light, and the air around her shimmered with quantum distortion. 200 of us, she said, her voice now layered with harmonic undertones. The first generation, ready to teach others. The revelation sent shockwaves through the council. Commander Lee was not merely explaining the technology, she was a living example of it. You've been augmented all along, General Krall said, studying her with new understanding. That's how you've been coordinating your fleet's impossible maneuvers. Lee nodded, the quantum effect subsiding. My consciousness exists partially in normal space and partially in quantum space. I can perceive the heralds in ways unaugmented beings cannot. I volunteered knowing I would never again experience life as I once knew it, she continued. That is the price of victory against the heralds. We ask only those willing to make the same sacrifice to step forward. As the council debated furiously, a junior officer rushed into the chamber, interrupting the proceedings. Admiral, Herald Vanguard forces have been detected approaching from multiple vectors. They've adapted their approach to bypass our sensor network. The tactical display shifted, showing dozens of Herald vessels converging toward Alliance Prime. How? Demanded Reeves. The main fleet shouldn't arrive for weeks. Lee's expression hardened. They're learning, adapting faster than we predicted. They recognize the threat we pose. Director Blackwood turned to the council representatives. You have a choice to make now, not in hours or days. The Heralds are coming for this station specifically. They've identified our command center. Without Ascension-enhanced ships and volunteers from your worlds, we cannot hold them back. I volunteer, declared General Krall unexpectedly, stepping forward. If humans can make this sacrifice, so can the Drakari. One by one, representatives from other species stood, pledging volunteers for the ascension process. Even the Chintal representative, after a visible internal struggle, nodded reluctantly. Prepare the ascension chambers, Admiral Reeves ordered. We have less than 6 hours before the Herald Vanguard arrives. As the council representatives hurried away, the archivist remained, studying Commander Lee with ancient, knowing eyes. There's more to this story, isn't there? The ancient being asked quietly. Something you haven't told us about the nature of this war. Lee's eyes flickered with quantum light. There always is, archivist. But some truths can only be understood by those who have crossed the threshold between worlds. The Alliance moved with unprecedented speed. With the Void Herald threat confirmed, even the most skeptical species committed their resources to the human-designed defense plan. Throughout the galaxy, shipyards worked around the clock, retrofitting vessels with quantum phase technology based on human designs. But time was running out. In the command center of Alliance Prime, Admiral Reeves studied the tactical display with growing concern. The initial Herald scout force had been defeated, but at a terrible cost. 5 human ships destroyed for every Herald vessel eliminated. The main Herald fleet will arrive in 18 days, she announced to the assembled War Council. Our current forces and production rates are insufficient. We need an edge. Director Blackwood stepped forward. It's time to implement Ascension Protocol at full scale. The chamber fell silent. Over the past week, several hundred volunteers from 28 species had undergone the Ascension process. The results were both encouraging and disturbing. The augmented beings possessed incredible abilities, but the personality changes were more severe than anticipated. General Krall, one of the first non-human volunteers, stood at the edge of the council. His scales had paled to an ashen gray, and his eyes glowed with the same quantum energy that marked all Ascension subjects. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonic undertones. The Herald consciousness is vast, he said, his gaze distant. They perceive our reality as we might perceive a two-dimensional drawing. They feed not on matter or energy, but on the quantum potential of sentient minds. That's why they harvest inhabited worlds. Commander Lee added, standing beside him. They consume possibility itself. Valix looked between the two augmented beings with unease. You speak as if you can sense them directly. We can, Lee confirmed. All Ascension subjects exist partially in the same dimensional layer as the Heralds. We feel their hunger, their intent. Admiral Reeves turned to the Council. The Ascension Corps has proven effective, but we need more. Thousands more, thousands, exclaimed the Chintal representative. You ask us to transform thousands of our people into whatever this is? He gestured at Krall and Lee. We ask you to save trillions, Blackwood replied coldly. The alternative is extinction. The tactical display suddenly shifted, showing a new quantum signature emerging at the edge of charted space. Unlike the chaotic energy patterns of the Heralds, this signature pulsed with precise ordered frequencies. What is that? Valox asked. Commander Lee tilted her head as if listening to a distant sound. Another ship. Not Herald, not Council. Her eyes widened. Not human either. The view screen activated, showing a vessel of impossible geometry, a ship that seemed to fold in on itself in ways that hurt to look at directly. We're receiving a transmission, reported the communications officer. Audio only. A voice filled the chamber, resonant, layered, and unmistakably synthetic. Alliance Prime, this is Emissary Construct Omega-9 of the Transcended Collective. We have been monitoring your conflict with the entities you call Void Heralds. We wish to offer assistance. The council members looked to each other in confusion. No one had heard of the Transcended Collective. Identify yourself more clearly, Admiral Reeves demanded. What is the Transcended Collective? We were organic beings once, like yourselves, the voice replied. We faced the Heralds in our home galaxy eons ago. We survived by transcending biological limitations. We have been tracking the Herald's harvest pattern across multiple galaxies. Director Blackwood leaned close to Reeves. This could be a trap. Another Herald tactic. Commander Lee shook her head. No. Their quantum signature is fundamentally different from the Herald's. They're something else entirely. Admiral Reeves addressed the unknown vessel again. What assistance do you offer? Your Ascension technology is crude but effective, the emissary replied. We can provide improvements that will increase survival rates and reduce personality fragmentation. We can also offer strategic data from previous Herald incursions. And what do you want in return? Valox asked suspiciously. Understanding, the emissary answered. Humanity has achieved in decades what took our civilization centuries, a viable defense against the Heralds. We wish to study your methods. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued for accepting the offer immediately, while others warned of potential deception. I can sense their intentions, General Krall announced suddenly. They speak truth, but not complete truth. There is more they do not say. Commander Lee nodded in agreement. Their consciousness is vast, ancient, but not malevolent. Admiral Reeves made her decision. Emissary, we accept your offer of assistance with the Ascension technology, but we request more information about your collective before proceeding further. Acceptable, the emissary responded. Permit our vessel to dock and we will provide the necessary data and technology. As the transmission ended, Blackwood pulled Reeves aside. We know nothing about these beings. This is a significant risk. We're already losing this war, she replied grimly. We need every advantage we can get. 6 hours later, in a secure docking bay, Admiral Reeves and the War Council waited as the airlock cycled. When the doors finally opened, a single figure emerged, not mechanical as many had expected, but seemingly human in appearance. A tall, slender person with silver skin and eyes that shifted through colors of the spectrum. I am Emissary Omega-9, it said, its voice the same layered resonance they had heard earlier. This form was chosen for easier communication. The emissary carried a small crystalline cube that pulsed with internal light. This contains the improvements to your Ascension technology, along with strategic data on Herald tactics from 17 previous conflicts. As Commander Lee accepted the cube, her quantum aura flared in response. She gasped, staggering slightly. What did you do to her? Blackwood demanded, moving protectively toward Lee. Nothing harmful, the emissary assured them. The data establishes a quantum resonance with ascended beings. Commander Lee can now access the tactical information directly. Lee straightened, her eyes wide with wonder. It's incredible. Millennia of battles, strategies, victories, and losses. I can see it all. The emissary turned to Admiral Reeves. There is something else you should know. The Heralds are not simply harvesting this galaxy. They are fleeing from something worse. Worse? Valix asked, his voice barely a whisper. What could be worse than the Heralds? The void itself, the emissary replied. The space between galaxies is not empty as you believe. It is inhabited by entities that make the Heralds seem insignificant. The Heralds harvest organic life to gain the energy needed to stay ahead of the Void Hunters. General Krall's quantum aura flickered with distress. You mean we face not only the Heralds but these Void Hunters as well? Not yet, the emissary answered. But eventually, yes. This is the cycle that has played out across countless galaxies. It is why we have survived as observers rather than combatants. Admiral Reeves studied the silver-skinned being. Then why help us now? The emissary's color-shifting eyes fixed on her. Because humanity has done something unprecedented. Your Ascension technology creates a bridge between dimensional layers that we believed impossible. If refined further, it might offer a permanent solution, rather than merely delaying the inevitable. You want us to fight your war, Blackwood. Realized. I want to break a cycle that has consumed galaxies for billions of years, the emissary corrected. And humanity, against all probability, has created the first viable means to do so. Commander Lee interfaced directly with the crystal, her expression growing more astonished by the second. Admiral, the tactical data confirms everything the emissary is saying, and the improvements to Ascension, they're revolutionary. They would allow augmented subjects to maintain their original personalities while significantly enhancing their abilities. How soon can we implement these changes? Reeves asked. Immediately, Lee replied. And with these improvements, we could potentially convert our entire fleet to Ascension vessels within 2 weeks. The emissary nodded. Sufficient to face the Herald main fleet when it arrives. It turned to the assembled council members. But understand this, even with these improvements, you face a terrible choice. To defeat the Heralds completely, a significant portion of your population must transcend their biological limitations forever. Becoming like you? Asked the archivist. No, the emissary said quietly. Becoming something entirely new. Neither fully organic nor fully transcended. A bridge between realities. As the implications settled over them, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The tactical display activated automatically, showing a massive quantum disturbance forming near the edge of the system. They've arrived early, Commander Lee announced, her voice tight with tension. The Herald Vanguard, much larger than we anticipated. The emissary turned to Admiral Reeves. You must decide now. Implement the improvements or face the Heralds with what you have. Reeves looked around at the council members, at the augmented beings who had already sacrificed their humanity, at the representatives of species who had been enemies mere weeks ago. Begin the implementation, she ordered, and call for volunteers from all species. This is no longer about saving the galaxy. This is about ending a cycle of destruction that has persisted for eons. 3 months into the war against the Void Heralds, the galaxy had been transformed. Nearly a third of all inhabited systems had been evacuated, as the Herald main fleet advanced inexorably toward the galactic core. The Alliance fleets, now comprised of vessels from all member species, fought delaying actions, buying time for the completion of humanity's final strategy. On Alliance Prime, Admiral Reeves, now bearing the scars of 2 major battles, addressed the combined military council. Operation Endgame begins in 6 hours, she announced, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. All evacuation corridors must be secured. All civilian transports must reach the designated safe zones. The tactical display showed the remaining Herald fleet, still numbering in the thousands, converging on the binary star system that had been chosen as the battlefield. The Ascension Corps is in position, reported Commander Lee, who now rarely appeared in physical form, her consciousness primarily residing within the quantum network connecting the enhanced ships. Her holographic projection flickered with strange energies. All 372 vessels are synchronized. The Alliance military leaders, representing species that had been bitter enemies just months earlier, studied the battle plan with somber expressions. None objected to the strategy. They had all witnessed enough of the war to understand what was necessary. And the Prometheus device? Asked Valix, who had lost 2 of his forearms in an earlier battle. Ready, confirmed Director Blackwood. His once imposing presence had diminished with age and strain, but his resolve remained undiminished. The quantum resonance cascade will affect a sphere 17 light-years in diameter. Nothing within that sphere will survive, including our own forces, Valox observed quietly. Reeves nodded. The Ascension Corps will create the containment field to hold the Heralds in position. They cannot survive, but they've always known that. The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the sacrifice settled over them. 372 ships crewed by volunteers from 46 species, all committing to certain death to save the galaxy. The emissary, who had remained with the Alliance as advisor and technical liaison, stepped forward. Its silver skin had taken on a translucent quality in recent weeks, as if it too was beginning to transcend physical form. There is another option, it said, drawing surprised looks from the council members. One I have not previously disclosed. Admiral Reeves frowned. This is hardly the time for new strategies, emissary. Not a strategy, it replied. A revelation. The emissary gestured, and a new hologram appeared beside the tactical display. A complex, spiraling structure that resembled both DNA and the Ascension technology, but vastly more intricate. This is the final evolution of your Ascension process, the emissary explained. What we call the Transcendence Matrix. It would allow the Ascension Corps to survive the quantum cascade. Survive? Blackwood asked skeptically. How? By fully transcending their biological limitations, the emissary answered. Becoming like us, consciousness freed from physical form, existing primarily in quantum space. General Krall, who had volunteered to lead the Ascension Corps in the final battle, stepped forward. The quantum energies around him had intensified until his original form was barely visible within the luminous aura. You withheld this information deliberately, he said, his voice resonating with multiple harmonics. Why? The emissary's color-shifting eyes dimmed slightly, because once a species takes this step, there is no returning to what they were. The transcended collective has existed for millions of years, watching civilizations rise and fall, intervening only when absolutely necessary. I feared the responsibility of guiding another species to transcendence. Commander Lee's hologram intensified. You feared competition. A new transcended species might challenge the collective's position as observers. Perhaps, the emissary acknowledged. But I have watched your alliance these past months, seen species that once despised each other fighting side by side, witnessed sacrifices I thought impossible for biological beings. You have earned the right to choose your own fate. Admiral Reeves studied the Transcendence Matrix schematic carefully. What would this mean for the volunteers? Would they retain their identities, their memories? Yes, but transformed, the emissary replied. They would exist primarily as consciousness, able to interact with physical reality but no longer bound by its limitations. The Prometheus device is ready, Blackwood reminded them. The plan is set. This last-minute change introduces unnecessary risk. No, General Krall disagreed. It introduces hope, not just for victory but for what comes after. He turned to the emissary. Can this matrix be implemented in time? With Commander Lee's help, yes. The basic structure is already present in the current Ascension technology. This is merely the final evolution. Admiral Reeves looked to the council members. This decision belongs to the Ascension Corps. They're the ones making the sacrifice. Lee's hologram expanded, momentarily filling the chamber with quantum light. I have communicated the option to all Corps members. They vote unanimously to implement the Matrix. Then proceed, Reeves ordered. But our primary objective remains unchanged. Contain the Herald fleet and trigger the quantum cascade. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of activity. The emissary and Commander Lee worked to implement the Transcendence Matrix across the Ascension network, while the rest of the Alliance forces secured the evacuation routes and moved into defensive positions. On the tactical display, the Herald fleet continued its inexorable advance, seemingly unaware of the trap being laid. They're taking the bait, Blackwood observed. Moving into the containment zone. The Ascension Corps is in position, Lee reported. Transcendence Matrix integration at 97%. Admiral Reeves addressed the assembled leaders one last time. Whatever happens next, remember this moment. Not just the sacrifice, but what it represents. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of species setting aside ancient hatreds to stand together. If we survive, that unity must continue. It's time, General Krull announced, his physical form now barely visible within the quantum energy. The Heralds have entered the containment zone. On the tactical display, the Ascension Corps vessels suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds, surrounding the Herald fleet in a complex three-dimensional formation. Space itself seemed to warp around them, creating a containment field that the Heralds immediately began attacking. The field won't hold for long, Lee warned. We must execute now. Admiral Reeves straightened, facing the assembled leaders. This victory belongs to all of us. Not to humanity alone, but to every species that set aside fear and mistrust to fight together. She turned to Blackwood. Activate the Prometheus device. At the center of the containment field, a single vessel, smaller than most, began to glow with blinding intensity. The quantum cascade initiated, reality itself seeming to fracture around it. Containment field at critical stress levels, Lee reported, her hologram destabilizing. The Heralds are... Her projection vanished as the quantum network experienced massive disruption. On the display, the Void Herald fleet unleashed a desperate final assault on the containment field. Several Ascension vessels were destroyed instantly, creating gaps in the formation. They're breaking free, shouted Valax. The cascade needs another 30 seconds to reach critical threshold. Reeves watched in horror as the containment field began to collapse. They'll escape. Everything will have been for nothing. The emissary stepped forward, its form beginning to dissolve into pure energy. Not nothing, watch. The tactical display suddenly shifted, showing the quantum energies of the Ascension Corps vessels changing, evolving, merging together into a vast, interconnected web that reinforced the failing containment field. The Transcendence, the emissary whispered. It's working. Within the containment field, the Ascension Corps was transforming. No longer individual vessels. They became a single quantum entity that enveloped the entire Herald fleet. At the center, the Prometheus device reached critical threshold, detonating in a silent flash that bent space itself. The display went blank, sensors overwhelmed by the quantum energies released. When they finally recovered, a strange, pulsating singularity occupied the space where the battle had occurred. The Heralds? Admiral Reeves asked. Gone, the emissary confirmed. Completely. And the Ascension Corps? Valax asked quietly. Before the emissary could respond, the communication system activated. The voice that emerged was layered with countless harmonics, as if hundreds of individuals spoke as one. We are here, it said. Changed, but still ourselves. The transcendence was successful. Lee's hologram reappeared, but transformed. Her human appearance now merely a suggestion within a complex matrix of quantum energy. We exist now primarily in quantum space, she explained, but we can still interact with physical reality. The Herald fleet has been eliminated completely. General Krau's voice joined hers, part of the harmonic chorus. We have seen beyond the limitations of physical form, Admiral. There is so much more to reality than any of us imagined. Admiral Reeves approached Elle.